Here we have a problem in trigonometry. That is, we have to solve for x in the given trigonometric equation, and the value that we find for x has to be in this interval 0 less than or equal to x less than 2 pi, and also this interval clearly covers all the 4 quadrants. Okay, now to solve for x in this trigonometric equation, first I have to simplify this equation because I find sin x on both left side and right side of this equation. So first I have to combine the two sin x. For that I have to get rid of the negative sin x on the right side. So I am adding sin x to both sides. Let me add it so that I'll be able to get rid of the sin x on the right side. So negative sin x, positive sin x will cancel out. Now on the left side, I'm getting 2 sin x positive square root of 2 equals to 0. Okay, now I have to isolate sin x. For that, I have to get rid of all the values around the sin x. So let me get rid of this positive square root of 2. So for that, I subtract square root of 2 from both sides. Then I'm getting 2 sin x equals to negative square root of 2. Then I divide both sides by 2. So when I do so, this 2 will cancel out. I'm getting sin x equals to negative square root of 2 over 2. Okay, now I have solved for sin x, but our aim is to solve for x. That is, find the angle measure x, for which the value of sine function is negative square root of 2 over 2. So for that, let's consider the 4 quadrants because the given interval covers the 4 quadrants. So here we have 0, here we have pi over 2 radians, here we have pi radians, here we have 3 pi over 2 radians, and here we have 2 pi radians. So this is quadrant 1, this is quadrant 2, and this is quadrant 3, and this is quadrant 4. And so we can consider the concept A is TC, that is we have A in the first quadrant, S in the second quadrant, T in the third quadrant, and C in the fourth quadrant. That is, all trigonometric functions are positive in the first quadrant. Sine and its reciprocal cosecant are positive in the second quadrant, the rest are negative. And tangent and cotangent are positive in the third quadrant, the rest are negative. And cosine and its reciprocal secant are positive in the fourth quadrant, the rest are negative. Okay, here clearly sine is positive in the first quadrant because in the first quadrant all trigonometric functions are positive, and also sine is positive in the second quadrant as well. So the first quadrant and second quadrant sine is positive, but here we get a negative value for sine x. So the angle measure over here x must be either in the third quadrant or fourth quadrant. So we have to find the angle measure x in the third or fourth quadrant because in the third and fourth quadrant only the sine is negative. Here we get a negative value. Okay, how do you have to get the angle measure x in the third quadrant or the fourth quadrant? So for that, what I have to do is I have to consider this negative value as a positive value and find the angle measure in the first quadrant. Okay, let me do it over here. So let's assume that sin x equals to square root of 2 over 2. I just assume the given negative value as a positive value, and I have to find the angle measure in the first quadrant. Because here now sine is positive. Since sine is positive, we can consider the first quadrant because in the first quadrant all trigonometric functions are positive. Once I get the angle measure x in the first quadrant for which the value of sine is positive square root of 2 over 2, I can use the angle measure which I get in the first quadrant as reference angle in the third quadrant and fourth quadrant. Then I can get the angle measure in the third quadrant and fourth quadrant for which the value of sine is negative square root of 2 over 2. Okay, now let's find the angle measure x in the first quadrant for which the value of sine is positive square root of 2 over 2. So we can use either trigonometric ratio table or unit circle to get the angle measure x in the first quadrant. So clearly it's pi over 4. So for the angle measure pi over 4 in the first quadrant, the value of the trigonometric function sine is square root of 2 over 2. Okay, now I got the angle measure in the first quadrant. So now to get the angle measure in the third quadrant and fourth quadrant, I have to use this angle measure pi over 4 which I get in the first quadrant as a reference angle. Let me take this pi over 4 as a reference angle over here, and also the same thing in the fourth quadrant as well. Okay, now to get the angle measure of the third quadrant which has the terminal side over here, so what I have to do is I have to add this pi over 4 to this pi. So there is pi positive pi over 4. So when I add them, 4 times pi is 4 pi, 4 pi positive 1 pi is 5 pi over 4. So now I'm getting angle measure 5 pi over 4 in the third quadrant. Okay, now to get the angle measure in the fourth quadrant, I have to subtract this reference angle pi over 4 from this 2 pi. So then I'm getting 2 pi negative pi over 4. So 4 times 2 pi is 8 pi, 8 pi negative 1 pi is 7 pi over 4. So now I'm getting 7 pi over 4 as the angle in the fourth quadrant. Okay, now I got two angle measures. One is in the third quadrant, another one is in the fourth quadrant. That is x equals to 5 pi over 4 and x equals to 7 pi over 4. So for these two angle measures, for the angle measure 5 pi over 4 in the third quadrant, the angle measure 7 pi over 4 in the fourth quadrant. So the value of sin x is negative square root of 2 over 2. And also we have both the values of x in the given interval 0 less than or equal to x less than 2 pi.